When you give money to charity, do you know where that money goes? The dream of Giftcoin is that every time you give money to charity, you have absolute confidence that your money is going where you envisioned. Trust in the charitable sector is at an all-time low, and our research has shown that people would give 49% more money to good causes if they could see how their money was being spent. That's $250 billion more that could potentially go to good causes globally. Blockchain technology provides a once-in-a-generation opportunity to fundamentally change the experience of charitable giving. Using the Giftcoin ecosystem, you will be able to see exactly how your money is being spent via our end-to-end tracking. And by using smart contracts for milestone payments, you will have confidence that charities are meeting the objectives they set at the beginning. When projects reach milestones, you will get to vote that you are satisfied, and only then will the charity be allowed to access the next stage of payments. The Giftcoin team is comprised of seasoned entrepreneurs having built multiple businesses and a charity with global reach. Giftcoin's collaboration with Charity Checkout, a leading charity payment provider, will allow us to bring 2,000 charities to our platform from day one. With a number of charities already signed up and dozens of features in the global media, we are launching our token sale on the 20th of March to bring the Giftcoin platform to market. With a perfect use of blockchain technology, Giftcoin has the potential to make the world fundamentally better. Join the Giftcoin revolution now and help bring cryptocurrency to the mainstream while raising money for good causes worldwide.
Hi, I'm Alex Howard, and welcome to this Ask Me Anything for Giftcoin. I'm here with my co-founder, Tim Bashara.
Hi, how are you doing?
And what we thought we'd do for this session is give you guys a little bit more context and background in terms of the projects, who we are, where we're coming from, but also give you guys a chance to ask us any questions that you've got as well. One of the things that's certainly been true for us as we've got deeper into this project is realizing just how much complexity, nuance there is to it. And as you guys hopefully have been diving deeper and deeper into understanding what we're trying to do, I'm sure that's brought up questions for you as well. So we're always available in our Telegram channel, but this is a kind of an opportunity to go a bit deeper into some of those questions. So we put together an initial kind of presentation of sorts to go through some of the questions that we know are common from people that we tend to get asked a lot, but also some of the questions have been coming through in Telegram over the last 3 days as well. We've been kind of accumulating them and trying to package them in. So for the first section, you'll hear us talking a fair bit, and maybe some of the questions will be answered there. But I'm sure as we talk, more questions will come out of that. So we're going to follow the Telegram channel as we go. We've got some pre-selected short clips that we'll play at certain points as we go through. And during those, we'll go into Telegram, pull out some of the questions that you guys put in, and look forward to getting into answering those. If you're not already on our Telegram channel, it's Giftcoin Crypto or Giftcoin Cryptocurrency. I think also this now is a good time to give a little bit of warning around phishing or people coming into the channel that claim to be someone that they're not. So please only engage with people that have an admin tag in our Telegram channel. That's really important. Obviously around token sales and ICOs, there are people that make attempts to try and scam people, and it's really important to us that you guys stay protected. So only ever trust anything on giftcoin.org from a registered Giftcoin email or the registered, the kind of the official Telegram channel. If you've got any concerns at any point, please check with someone that has an admin badge or check with one of the team directly via the Giftcoin website. So we thought at this point as well, it's good to give a little bit of sense of who we are and who the core team are behind this project. So I'll start a little bit with some of my story and backgrounds, yeah, I'll let Tim get a word in at some point. So my kind of background is I had a chronic illness as a teenager, and I spent 7 years at points bedbound and certainly long periods housebound. And that was obviously an incredibly difficult life experience. And ultimately, that catalyzed a deep interest in health and well-being and psychology, because frankly, I discovered that if I wanted to get out of the situation, the only way I was going to find a way out was I was going to kind of dig my own path. And after being ill for 7 years and on an active path to recovery from that for 5 years, I went on to set up the organization that I desperately wanted to exist in the years that I'd been ill. And I grew that as a private business for 10 years. And then 5 years ago, after 10 years, I reached the point where I felt that I'd gone my entrepreneurial growth, let's say, was not what it had been at the start, because I'd become more comfortable with more familiar with all the roles that I was having. But also, I felt the impact of that organization. I wanted it to be able to do a lot more research, and I was personally funding the research program through my other business interests at this point. So I ended up gifting that organization, the Optimum Health Clinic, to a charity that I'd founded. So for the last 5 years, that's been a charity. And I've been on the board of that charity and still involved in the overall strategic leadership. And about 4 years ago, after that kind of transition, got more involved as a tech entrepreneur and really had this kind of question of how can we make the world better through using technology, and ended up founding an online video platform, Conscious Life. And Conscious Life is really a kind of online health and wellness video platform. And the question really is, how can you make the world better using technology by giving people the tools to live healthier and happier lives? And the origins actually of Giftcoin, it came out of some conversations that we were having last summer at Conscious Life, kind of broadening that question around how can technology make the world better? And we can maybe talk a bit more about some of our kind of how that came together in a moment, but it's also worth saying back in 2013, I invested a large chunk of money for me at the time in Bitcoin. Unfortunately, I can't sit here and say that I stayed in. I went in on the day of the largest crash in the history of Bitcoin. Crashed 4 hours later. But I ended up eventually making a small profit. But I had this long-term, therefore, interest in crypto. And we were having some conversations last summer about how can we use technology, and the origins of Giftcoin came out of that. But we'll come back to that maybe in a moment. But I've been talking enough. Maybe Tim, you want to give a bit of your background?
So my name is Tim Bashara. I have been in technology for about 20 years. I have been an entrepreneur for about 10 years. I've had a number of different businesses. Some of them worked well, some of them haven't worked so well. We had for a while one of the most well-known, foremost mobile agencies in London called Nimble Mobile. So we did a lot of work for BBC. We did all the apps for BBC Top Gear, Doctor Who. We did a whole bunch of other things. And then we span off from that agency business. We span off a separate business called QApp, which was an ordering ahead system for hospitality venues. And we built that business to the point where we had a number of really big clients. Some of the biggest concert venues in the UK. We had 2 Premier League football clubs. We had a chain of bingo halls, which surprisingly was one of our biggest clients. And we ended up selling that business to a competitor. And that was in the beginning of 2016. And after that, really, my background is in product. I'm essentially a CPO, a Chief Product Officer, all things to do with product, that's developing product, growth, understanding consumer applications. And I was working with a lot of people, sort of bringing the experience I'd learned both in startups and fast-scaling consumer businesses. I did some work with Alex on Conscious Life. I did some work elsewhere. But when this project came up, the Giftcoin project, I really fell in love with it. And I fell in love with it because, for me, it could be a very interesting and profitable business, but also it was something that would help people. So it had what they call a double bottom line. It's not just about generating capital for shareholders. That's great, but this is actually making impact in the world. And I've been very fortunate enough to be on this journey. It's been probably the most intense thing I've ever done, personally and professionally. But I consider myself very fortunate to have been on this journey with the Giftcoin team.
Should we say a bit about some of the other key people as well?
Yeah.
So one of the I'll talk about maybe Jonna. So Jonna is one of our senior advisors, and you'll see some clips actually. He wasn't able to be here in London today, but we have some clips of various pieces that he's been involved with for us over the last 3 or 4 months. So you'll see him both on BBC News. You'll see an interview that I record with him deliberately to be able to use some clips here. And also towards the end of today's session, you'll see him on stage at Token Fest on Friday in San Francisco last week. But briefly, John Lashinsky's background is that he has been in the charitable sector fundraising world for over 20 years. He was recently voted the second most influential person, communicator on social change, after Bill Clinton. So he regularly shares a stage with some of the most famous people on the planet around philanthropy, social change, making the world better. He's also got particularly known for being one of the key advisors to ALS on the Ice Bucket Challenge. And you'll see actually a clip on BBC News in a little bit talking about that. So John is incredibly experienced, and part of what was been fascinating about his journey of the project is initially he came in with a certain amount of skepticism, and he was like, I've seen numerous people say they're going to change the world of fundraising. And it was only when he deep dived into the project and really started to look at what we were doing that about 3 or 4 weeks in, I got this phone call from him where he was like, I think you guys are going to change the world, and I want to be on this journey with you. So yeah, he's certainly been a key part of the project.
We should probably cover John
B.
Yeah.
and Ben, yeah.
John B. Jonathan Beddoes is another one of our founders. We've worked with Jonathan for a number of years now, and he's a very, very competent investor and entrepreneur and all-round kind of businessman and tech guy. John's background, if I can give a brief sort of summary of that, I hope I don't do a disservice. John was one of these very clever whiz kids, so he was making a whole ton of money when he was 17 in his parents' bedroom, initially on affiliate networking. And then he ended up founding a company called Zugo with a number of other guys who were very big in software monetization. At the time, they had a deal with Microsoft Bing. I believe they put $100 million worth of revenue through that company in 2 years. Very impressive. That particular company was sold, and then John moved on to investing and also founded a company called Safer Browser, or Safer Technologies, but the browser's called Secure Browser. And that was recently sold to Avast. So John's currently, he's at the end of his earn-out with Avast at the moment. The other guy we should talk about is Ben Evans, who's our CTO. Ben and I have known each other for several years. We actually shared an office together, and Ben's a very, very clever guy. He's got a master's from Cambridge in mathematics. He was the chief performance architect at Morgan Stanley when they did Google's IPO. And he subsequently went on to Deutsche Bank, where he was chief technical architect, was it?
Chief architect for
fixed derivatives globally, that's right. He left, he ran a startup which was very successful. Ben's very well known in the Java community. He teaches on Java, he writes books on Java. If you Google Ben Evans, you'll find them. And he's also a big blockchain enthusiast. Ben really jumped on board the project around November time. He saw the project, he absolutely loved it. He thought it would be a great marriage of his skills and a sort of plugging the gap in what we needed as a really active CTO. So we're very, very lucky to have someone of Ben's caliber on board.
It's also worth saying that Tim and I have known each other for, I think, about 15 years. Tim was the best man at my wedding. And if any of you have seen the documentary series, we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. Yeah, Tim and I have a bit like an old married couple in the sense that we know how to push each other's buttons, but we also know how to bring out the best in each other. I think that history and familiarity is part of the reason why we've been able to be so successful in bringing this project to life. So in a moment, we're going to watch a clip of John Lashinsky on BBC News. It's a good way of learning more about his background, but also some of the real potential of this project. And it's just one example of over 30 pieces of global media that we've had. You can see all of the press further down the website, giftcoin.org. I think just before we roll that, just one other piece that I wanted to mention at this point is that to kind of just give you a very short kind of elevator pitch, as it were, around what Giftcoin is, just to kind of encapsulate and to lay some foundation. We're going to come after this video more into some of the detail around this. But the high-level vision of Giftcoin is fundamentally, we believe we can bring significantly more money to good causes globally through charity, not-for-profits, and philanthropy, by giving charities and not-for-profits the tools to fundamentally demonstrate the impact that they're having and to give donors the confidence to support projects. In fact, we did a survey of 2,000 people, and the finding was, on average, people would give 49% more money to charity if they could see how that money was spent. And this issue around lack of transparency and lack of trust in charity is a very well-known issue in the sector. And really, blockchain provides a way to solve that issue that fundamentally was not available before. Because when you're trying to build trust and transparency, if you're doing that trusting humans or trusting a database that's stored in one place that can be manipulated, it's fundamentally different to when you have a database which is decentralized in nature and you have the absolute trust and transparency that the blockchain provides. So we are solving a very clearly known problem in an industry in a way that simply wasn't available before. And that's why the charitable sector, and we'll talk more about this later, has so powerfully embraced what it is that we're trying to do. And if you think about bringing 49% more money a year, well, charitable donations globally is $500 billion a year. So half of that, nearly half of that, is another $250 billion a year globally to charity and good causes. And as Tim said, there is a very powerful business case underlying what we're doing in terms of token economics and the value of a token going up over time. But also this is a project that fundamentally has the potential to change the world. And that's part of why we are so passionate about this. So we're going to play this about a 4-minute clip of John Dushinsky on BBC News in a moment. If you haven't already wanted to start sharing questions in Telegram, please do. We'll have a look at some of those questions now, and we'll also come back afterwards, and we're going to come more into some of the how of how the Giftcoin platform is going to work.
Hey, welcome back. You're watching Talking Business with me, Aaron Heselhurst. Let me just recap the top story. 2 years today from that Paris climate deal. World leaders, they're back in that wonderful city just to work out basically how they're going to pay for all those wonderful green promises we're going to keep across that gathering. Now, everyone knows the viral ice bucket challenge. Oprah Winfrey, Mark Zuckerberg, David Beckham were just some of the 2.3 million people who tipped a bucket of ice over their heads to raise, some $150 million. So what can businesses learn from its success? And what's next? Entrepreneur John Dushinsky was one of the people behind that challenge, the instrumental, but also the founder of Giftcoin. John, great to have you with us.
Thanks so much, Aaron. Great to be here.
We want to talk about what's coming up. I don't want to reflect on the past, but I need to ask you about what was so successful about this particular challenge? Why did it just take all over the world?
So the guy behind this, his name was Steve Gleason. Is Steve Gleason. Used to play football for the New Orleans Saints. And back in 2013, he said he was diagnosed with ALS, and he said, I am not going to go quietly.
Which is
into
what,
the
just
night.
for the uninitiated?
So ALS is a disease where you, it's motor neuron disease here in the UK.
Right.
Yeah, you lose your bodily function, but your brain still stays
going.
completely
Horrible,
intact.
horrible.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. So he said, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to do something about this. And the fact that he did that, the fact that he was prepared to take a stand, others started to stand with him, and a community started to form. Now, the reason the Ice Bucket Challenge came out, it wasn't planned, nobody created it, but it was because such a community of people who really got the realities of this disease, they came together and they connected with the idea of taking an action that would get the world's attention.
Yeah, we've got some pictures now showing of that challenge. So obviously, no doubt, you want that same community behind your new idea, Giftcoin. How do you plan? What is Giftcoin? What's the idea behind that?
So Giftcoin is a very cool idea. It's about taking the blockchain and allowing donors and beneficiaries to be connected. So you can make a donation using this new cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, but Bitcoin for not-for-profits, Bitcoin for charities. So you can donate, you could donate and you know exactly where your money is going, all the way down to the beneficiary.
Because that blockchain allows that.
Yeah,
Can
that's
you,
right.
in a sentence, because I don't want to take in a sentence for the uninitiated, and the dummies, you mean blockchain? I can't get my head around it. How does it work?
Well, blockchain is a database that is open to all, and everybody can see it. And once something goes into that database, it can't be changed, it can't be corrupted, and it is there forever.
Very transparent.
Completely transparent.
So the donor gets to see exactly where that money goes.
That's right.
And how it's used?
Exactly.
Because that's important, isn't it? They're people's perceptions about when they donate over the phone, or how the charity actually spends that money.
Yeah, you know what's really interesting about this, Aaron, is that actually the revolution that Giftcoin is part of creating here is shifting power away from the charities and the non-profits back to the beneficiaries and the donors. Because we've got this kind of idea that we know best, the charities know best. It's a post-colonial vision of philanthropy and of social change. Yeah, the
You're
rich
shattering all of that. You're
completely shattering that. Completely shattering that.
But so this really also took off, apart from the community, but social media, right?
Yes.
Obviously helped. How do you see social media playing the role in charities and the connection between donors and...
So there's a big change happening in charities today, and charities are actually looking for something like Giftcoin today because they know that the olden days of putting white people in Land Cruisers in Africa to solve problems doesn't work. So there's much more of a movement towards cash today.
Yeah.
So a lot of charities are deploying money straight down to the field and to individuals in cash. And what this allows you to do is to get people together. The donors and the beneficiaries can start having those relationships, and social media makes that happen.
Okay, John Dushinsky, sorry, John. You're going to want a lot of people who play on Wall Street to start donating
Absolutely.
in Giftcoin. So let's take a look at what Wall Street is doing right now as we wrap up the program. There you go. All eyes tomorrow on America's Central Bank, the US Fed. Will it or won't it raise interest rates again? Follow me on Twitter at BBC Aaron. I'm back, same time, same place tomorrow. See you then. John,
So apparently there's been a bit of an issue with one of the links in the email, so Tim is just addressing that at the moment. So to give you guys a bit more kind of context in terms of how Giftcoin is going to work, ultimately Giftcoin, the dream of Giftcoin is end-to-end giving. And what that means is you give money to someone in a foreign country, and we can track that money from beginning to end. So what that means is when that person spends that money, we can see exactly where that money goes. That gives you as the donor, absolute confidence that the money is going exactly where you intended. To the charity, what that also means is they have absolute capacity to demonstrate the potential of the money that they're using. And one of the things that charities know is the more that they can demonstrate impact, the more people will give money. So obviously that's the long-term dream. But right now, we don't have global adoption of cryptocurrency. And without global adoption of cryptocurrency, we can't pay people at the end of the supply chain in Giftcoin. So we have stepping stones towards that. So as the market has wider adoption of Giftcoin and wider adoption of cryptocurrency, we have stepping stones, and the first of those is using milestones in projects. So using a smart contract, what that means is you can donate towards a project, and if that project is not fully funded, it means you as the donor would then get back your donation. The next thing it would mean is that if a project fails to achieve a certain milestone, then again money would come back. So it's almost like the smart contract is holding the funds to the project in a kind of escrow. So as a donor, I've then got absolute confidence if I fund, let's say that there's a project of digging a well in Africa, if I give money towards that project, I have absolute confidence that that project's going to happen. So if we look at what some of those milestones might be, the first milestone could be the charity sourcing the land and purchasing the land. The second milestone could be digging the well and fitting it out. The third milestone could be handing the project over to the local community. And let's say that the cost of that project is $1 million. So let's say the charity puts this project on the Giftcoin platform. They're raising $1 million towards it. When they achieve the fundraising target of $1 million, the first amount of funds becomes available, which then allows the charity to go and start running the project, so they can go and source and purchase the land. At the point they've then achieved that milestone, they can then upload the evidence of that milestone back to the platform. And at the point of loading the project, the charity will define the burden of proof of each of the milestones. The higher the charity defines a burden of proof, the more likely the project is to get funded. So in a sense, there's an incentive for charities to set the burden of proof higher. But obviously it needs to not be so high that for the charity that it ends up becoming kind of so burdensome that they don't want to bother fundraising to receive the money. So let's say in that example, they upload the proof of land purchase to the website. The people that have supported the project, the donors that have backed the project, then get a notification. This milestone is up for validation. They then vote they're satisfied, and assuming enough people are satisfied, the next amount of funds then get unlocked and become available to the charity. So what this means is that each time milestones are happening, the charity has an ability to demonstrate the impact to the donors. Because one of the questions that we've had from people is why would charities take on the extra kind of burden of responsibility that goes with it? It helps them raise more money, but also it helps them engage the donor community as a project is happening. And you already see attempts to do this in the kind of charitable sector. You know, you see, for example, you sponsor a donkey in a donkey sanctuary and everyone gets a kind of postcard every quarter from the donkey, but it's the same donkey and it's the same photo to everyone. But even doing things like that, it's powerful because it creates engagement. This is that on a whole new scale. The donors, going back to it, have the confidence that if you fund a project, the charity only gets the funds if the project is fully funded. It then has to communicate milestones, and when it communicates milestones, you get the ability to be engaged in that process. There are also other ways we can validate milestones. So one of the other things which we'll do is that, especially if we're working in areas in the third world where there's greater issues around transparency and trust, then there's a network of field agents that we will plug into. So validation can be done by the people donating, by the charity uploading evidence, but it can also be done by checks on the ground. We can also have some restrictions in terms of how we use smart contracts. So let's say, for example, I think this is one of the examples which is in the white paper, that let's say that you want to sponsor a girl's school fees in Africa, and you give the father the money in Giftcoin. We can then put a restriction in the smart contract that ultimately means that the money only is only redeemable against the school fees. So if the father goes and tries to spend that Giftcoin on something else, it simply won't process. It can only be used to pay for the school fees. So with all these different kind of variations, and we've got a video coming up a little bit later where John Dushinsky talks more about why the world needs Giftcoin, and even gets into some example around remittances and different other kind of applications. But the kind of core piece here is this dream, this long-term vision of end-to-end giving. And in this long-term vision, you give money, you can see where the money is spent at the end of the supply chain. That requires worldwide, or at least a certain level of adoption of cryptocurrency and Giftcoin. So the stepping stone towards that is milestones in projects, the smart contract holding funds in a form of escrow, meaning funds only become available at certain points, and being able to have restrictions on how funds get spent in different places. One of the other things, one of the pieces around this that I touched on is people asking, well, do charities want this? Like, you know, why would charities go through this? And as I mentioned, anything that will allow them to raise more money, anything that will allow them to more powerfully demonstrate impact and connect with their donor base is a significant value add to them. We have a dozen or so charities signed up for our testing process. English Heritage is one of the best known. They look after some of the most famous historical sites here in the places like Stonehenge, Dover Castle, many other places. But but also we have a collaboration with Charity Checkout, which is one of the UK's leading charity payment providers, to make Giftcoin available to 2,000 charities at launch. Charity Checkout are currently adding 100 charities a week. So at the time that Giftcoin comes to market, that will be around 5,000 charities that we will be able to make the platform available to. We're also talking to similar-based organizations in other countries around the world. So we believe we have a very, very powerful route to market in comparison to, a project which is just starting and has got no traction. It's very different when you see these level of collaborations coming in place from the start. It just goes to show how directly we are solving a well-recognized problem in a way that simply wasn't available before. So, is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
You covered it pretty well.
So we're going to have another clip with John Dushinsky, and in this clip, John and I were talking about how he sees the value of Giftcoin, and he touches on a few of these pieces, but particularly broadens to some of the other applications that are also possible as well. So we're going to run that clip now.
Well, when we first met, when we first started the conversation, we'd been kind of in that sort of space for a few years, and I knew you to be a successful entrepreneur, and I knew you to be very hardworking, and I knew you to be very committed. So the fact that you were coming to me with this idea made me to sit up and take notice of it. But I also had I've seen over the years so many tech solutions from outside the sector. And even though you've got a connection, you run a charity, you're not you've not been part of the sort of the non-profit world for a long time. So I've seen so many companies come in with solutions that on paper just look brilliant, but fall flat on their backsides. And I wanted to make sure that this wasn't one of them. Absolutely, you got my interest because you're in the space of thinking about how does one go about creating. You came to me originally with this notion of transparency. That's a very good thing. But you're right, the research that we did on this and the more time I've spent working with you guys really has opened up the fact that I think we're just beginning to look at the very tip of the iceberg of what Giftcoin can do to effect change, disrupt and disintermediate social change. And I can see that in a number of ways. The first one is, yes, transparency. When you can make a donation and know that it's gone to the charity and the charity's then dispersed it, that's a confidence builder. And actually that meets a need first articulated by a guy called Ken Burnett in a book called Relationship Fundraising back in the 1980s, who explained the donor journey and who kind of visioned what you're now able to deliver through the technology of blockchain and Giftcoin. Now, I haven't spoken to Ken about this, but we will be having a conversation shortly. I think that this is the first time we can actually start to deliver the vision that he laid out nearly 30 years ago. And charities have been working really hard to try and make that happen. You go to conferences in the non-profit space, there's all these sessions on donor journeys and how to make things more accountable for donors and build transparency and build trust. So firstly, that piece meets a need. And for me, things have to meet a need. You can't just drop something in and expect it to land. So there's a real need being met there. The second need that we saw is the fact that there's a vast amount of money sitting in altcoins today. People who invested $100 or £100 in Bitcoin 7 years ago, who are now sitting on oodles of this stuff, and who for one reason or another can't or won't pull it out. Yeah, tax reasons or for money laundering accusation reasons. There's a lot of money that's in the alt currency space that's going to stay there. And the more we delve into that, we realize that it sits predominantly with the high net worth individuals 45 to 55 plus, who are the generation or the sort of demographic that are the main investors in community and social change. And I use the word deliberately. I'm not saying philanthropic givers, I'm saying investors in change, because that's what those people think themselves as. Like, these are investors in change. But yet you can't invest in change if you have Bitcoin today. So again, problem there, or opportunity, Giftcoin comes along as a solution. So there's a vast well of untapped wealth that could be invested in creating a better planet for all of us that currently can't, and Giftcoin meets that need. Third, the remittances market. It's a vast, vast multi-trillion-dollar market globally. I believe it to be deeply philanthropic. It's not considered philanthropy, but I believe it to be very philanthropic.
And when you say remittances, you mean people in a country such as the UK that are perhaps from a different country originally, sending money back home effectively.
Yeah,
and right now, if they do that, they're probably using Western Union. They're probably paying 9% to transfer money.
That's right. I mean, I was in Dubai just a couple of days ago, and the expat population of Dubai is over 80%. And whilst we associate Dubai often from a Western perspective with sort of the Brits that go over there and the Australians that go over there, the vast majority of those expats are Indians, a lot of them from Kerala, Filipinos, and they work there and they send home vast chunks of their salary. And that's just one city in one particular microsystem or ecosystem. So there is a vast amount of money flowing around between individuals from people who go away to work and then flow the money back to their families and communities. That's philanthropic. You talk to taxi drivers in Dubai who come from Kerala. They work 6 days a week. They have families, they have wives and kids back in southern India. And they get to go home for 2 weeks a year. And when you talk to them about their kids, you see the pride on their faces because they tell you, my kids are going to school. Yeah, this is the first time anybody's gone to school.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah? I have my kid graduating as an engineer because we have made a sacrifice as a family for me to live away from my family for 10, 12, 15 years.
Yes. And 9% of that is being lost.
9% of that is being lost.
Just to put it one way, that 9% could effectively mean a chunk of time a year they could be with their family, for example.
It could mean that in order to put your kids through school, you're away for 9 years as opposed to 10 years.
Yeah.
That's an extra year you get to spend with your families. This is important stuff. I mean, you think about this in terms of ratios and business models. It's one way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Transfer it into the lives of people. This matters.
Hi. So we're going to talk a little bit now about some of the technical aspects of the project. But before we go there, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about how we feel Giftcoin is a perfect use of blockchain technology. Now, I think it's fair to say that a lot of ICOs, they're certainly criticized for taking an existing business and shoehorning blockchain into that existing business. And, perhaps it's maybe not such a convincing use of a token, or maybe it's not such a convincing use of blockchain. Kodak blockchain, maybe, for example. But we believe that Giftcoin really is a perfect use of blockchain. Giftcoin is all about providing trust and transparency to charitable giving, and really for changing the public's attitude towards giving and towards charity as a whole. And, so what better way to do that by using the blockchain? And another thing that's been levied at people is, why do an ICO? Well, ultimately, an ICO is a great way of raising money, but it's also a great way of building the war chest that we'll need to ultimately roll this project out globally. But I think more importantly than that, it's really about engaging with the community, both the blockchain and crypto community and the charity community. And we feel that running an ICO in the way we're doing it is a fantastic way of bringing our project out there and making people aware of what we're doing and getting their buy-in and engagement. So let's talk a little bit now about the technical side of what we're doing. Don't worry, we're not going to go too far into technicals, but we're going to touch on some of this. Obviously, for anybody who wants to read up more about our technical solution, there's quite a detailed piece in the white paper about this, and please feel free to get in touch with us with any more questions. We can also get our CTO, Ben, to answer directly any questions you might have. But there's a couple of things I want to cover really about the technical. The first is that we are an ERC20 token. We are launching on the Ethereum network. However, what we don't want to do is rely too heavily on proof of work algorithms. Now, the reason we don't want to do that is because a lot of the projects that we help fund in the developing world are about decarbonization, cutting down forests, burning up petrochemicals. All of these things have a huge effect on the environment. And we've seen with some of the big proof of work coins like Bitcoin what that can do to the environment and the use of energy. And we don't really believe that that's in line with our mission. Having said that, we do believe in public blockchains, and we do believe in the accountability that public blockchains can bring. So what we've come up with is effectively a two-chain solution, on-chain and off-chain. So we launch on Ethereum network, we launch as an ERC20 token, but at the same time, alongside of that, we're running a side chain. And that sidechain is a separate blockchain. It's going to be a permission blockchain, and it's going to be maintained by non-profits themselves. And what that allows us to do is to move within that sidechain essentially feeless. We don't have to worry about proof of work. We don't have to worry about proof of stake even. We can move within that sidechain feelessly because it's maintained by non-profits. And the way that it works in practice is that each time we build a block, each time we generate a block in our sidechain, we take a hash of that block and we publish it to the Ethereum network. Anybody that goes onto the Ethereum network can take that hash, can query our API, and they will be returned all the transactions that go to make up that block. And in time, we hope to produce, we hope to be able to allow them access to our GitHub repository so they can see all of the code that makes up that block. And that has a number of advantages. As well as the advantage of feeless giving that we spoke about, there's also helps us to avoid network weather on the Ethereum network, and it helps us to do more complex things with the smart contracts than we would otherwise be able to do.
Cool.
And obviously, if anybody's got any more questions around that, please feel free to get in touch. I'll do my best to answer them, and if not, we'll have our CTO come and answer those questions.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we would kind of say about the tech side is that the tech is obviously crucial with a project like this, and that's why we have a world-class CTO like Ben. We like to say if he can be the chief performance architect for the Google IPO, we're confident that he's built our ICO, let's say, in a way that's going to be robust. But also more importantly, going forward with the depth of his fintech background, of the kind of the level of ambition that we have in a project like this, we feel we have the leadership we need to drive that. But of course, Giftcoin is not just about technology. In fact, we would say that there are others in the space that are kind of looking at the technology side of it, and that's obviously part of it. But what's also very important is the building and driving global adoption. In a sense, this is a mission around winning the hearts and minds of the donor community, the charity community, and even going wider than that, of NGOs, government foreign aid programs. In fact, someone was asking on Telegram, I'll try and follow it up now. Hit Crypto was asking about any traction in terms of discussions with government. So we haven't yet started having conversations with the government, mainly because we know those conversations are long-term discussions. We have been invited, which we'll be attending and presenting at some events in the Houses of Parliament in the UK around the use of blockchain in UK industry, and specifically from the point of view we're talking about is the charitable sector. So we will certainly we look forward to those discussions, but because of the timescale those things take to unfold, we've deliberately focused our attentions on charities and partnerships and things like our collaboration with Charity Checkout. And I think what that does is that shows the level of interest and adoption. But when it comes to winning hearts and minds, there's also a piece around looking at the fundamental power relationship around donors and recipients. We have another clip in a minute with John Lashinsky talking about this, how we can use blockchain and how we can use cryptocurrency to fundamentally change that relationship in such a way that you can directly give money to someone anywhere in the world without having to have all of that kind of middleman. Because when you think about it, the really powerful uses of blockchain, one of the things you see is that removal of middleman to create a more efficient, to make a more cost-effective and a better way of transacting. And we don't ultimately believe that the role of charities will disappear, but we do believe it can change. So this clip with John, I think, is a great way of understanding more about that. So we'll play that clip now.
Ultimately, this is really about not just transparency, though. This is actually about shifting power. What the internet has done is it has democratized. It has democratized information. Previously, information was available through newspapers or it was available through TV channels. Today, information is democratized. It's democratized travel. Yeah? It's democratized access to people's spare rooms. It's democratized the way you get around using things like Uber rather than having to rely on vastly overinflated taxi prices because of monopolies that are run to the benefit of few. the whole digitalization and globalization process has ultimately been about democratization. Now, you can argue that any which way you like, the fact that it's not really worked for the common man and it's really actually concentrated power into the hands of 4 or 5 mega companies that didn't exist 15 years ago. You can have that debate. But at the end of the day, the fact that somebody who is a farmer in Kenya, where I was 3 weeks ago, has access on on not even a smartphone, on a simple phone, to real-time crop prices, and knows when to sell or to take their product to market according to real-time crop prices that could make a difference of 30 to 40% in how much they're going to get for their crop. That is only possible because of the democratization that technology brings. And what this and what Giftcoin offers is an extension of that into the space of social change. Because it takes the power away from the charity. Now, here you've got your donor, here you've got your beneficiary. Sorry, your charity, here you've got your beneficiary. The donor gives money to the charity decides who gets to share in that. The power lies here. What we need to do is to disintermediate that, because it will drive more efficiency, and it will actually do something that I believe really powerfully in. It will put power back into the people who are on the ground and who have the most to gain from the solutions. I was lucky enough to work about 10 years ago with an organization in Canada called the Stephen Lewis Foundation. And Stephen Lewis is one of my heroes, as is his daughter who runs the foundation. Her name's Ilana Landsberg Lewis. Stephen worked at the UN. He ran the UN AIDS program. And then he came back from the UN and said, I'm going to set up my own foundation because I know what's wrong. And he said, what's wrong is taking a top-down approach here. What we need to do is to take a community-based bottom-up approach. And this foundation is one of very, very, very few that goes into the field in Africa, goes to communities and says, hey, what do you need? And then helps them put together the structures that they need to be able to make an application for funding so that there's a bank account you can flow the money to. They give them the money and then they get the hell out of the way. Now, we have this sort of patriarchal Western colonial vision of that, which is, oh no, they might misuse the money. It might go to fund X, Y, Z. It might not achieve the goals that it's supposed to achieve. We need levels of oversight. But actually, when you really trust the people who are on the front lines of the problem, therefore the ones who most need the solution, you listen to them and then you give them the thing that they are asking for and then you get out of the way. The results are transformational.
And of course,
that's the power shift.
Right, and of course, if you use something like the blockchain, just everyone can have trust anyway.
Yeah.
So you don't need to put in place all these layers of management and oversight and control. You can just see the path and how money is then being used. And I know that you've also said to me that there's a move on a quite global scale towards moving away from funding programs towards empowering people on the ground.
There is, and this is one of the other applications I can see for Giftcoin. The INGOs, the Red Crosses, the UNICEFs, etc., have built their model on sort of putting people on the ground. And we know that doesn't work anymore. There's a study came out that analysed the impact of how we reacted to Haiti in 2010. All of the NGOs on the planet rocked up, set up shop, raised a bucket load of money, and the report, which I believe was published in The Lancet, said that essentially we crippled civil society. And it's going to now take a lot longer for Haiti to rebuild because we took out the level of civil society, we completely disempowered the local community to solve their own problems, and we created a level of dependency that now we have to extricate ourselves from because, of course, the funding's dried up. Because who wants to support Haiti now? It was nearly 10 years ago the earthquake happened. And there's a kind of sense that, you know what, it would have just been better to turn up in Haiti and make sure that first we set up the mobile phone system and the electricity system so the mobile phones worked. Then, using M-Pesa-style technology where you send money to mobile phones, basically send everybody $350 and then get the hell out of Dodge. And that is there's not, I wouldn't say it's a consensus building, but there's a lot of talk today about how shifting to cash is going to become the way to do this in the future. And that's where Giftcoin fits in, because it provides a platform that people like the Red Cross and the UNHCR and others can use to distribute cash with absolute transparency and control, well, not control, but
oversight. Yeah.
Oversight in where that's going. And again, you're empowering the people on the ground and providing the solution. Back to what I was saying right at the beginning, is Giftcoin solving problems? Is it providing solutions where there's opportunities? Here's another space where we know that there is a shift happening. And this is an opportunity to provide a solution that the big INGOs can use to support more people to help them better their own lives.
Okay, welcome back, guys. So yeah, I mean, that just gives you a sense of the real potential of a project like this. And you know, it's kind of wild when you start to really think about the potential of a cryptocurrency which has real trust, which has that has the brand that it's being used for giving and good causes. There's so many applications to that the $500 billion a year revenue that goes through charities, or the $2 trillion a year through not-for-profits, or the 0.6% of gross national income just the UK government alone gives in foreign aid, you get the sense of just how huge this market really is. So we've had some questions that have been emailing in. You can also post questions in our Telegram group, Giftcoin Crypto, or Giftcoin Cryptocurrency. But we've also had some been emailing in through the websites. So the first one is how many tokens and some token economics. I don't know if you want to...
I can ask that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're actually minting 1 billion tokens in total. This token sale will be selling 100 million, so 10% of supply. They're on sale. Would you like to talk about the actual numbers? Yeah. So the price of the token, this token sale is 10 cents a token, so $1 will buy you 10 tokens. If you participate in Ether, we'll be fixing the Ether price later on today / tomorrow morning. The price of the contract then won't change during the contract sale. That's the way the smart contract works. So for the month of the token sale, that price will be fixed. We'll be announcing the price that we'll fix at later on today.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's also actually there's a part two to this question, which was why is the value of the token going to go up? And you know, obviously, you know, with any ICO investment, you know, I think we should give the caveat that we make no guarantees around anything. You should only invest money that you can afford to potentially lose and invest, like any investment. But we believe that the token economics that underpin Giftcoin are particularly compelling, partly because of the market size that I just spoke about briefly earlier, but also, as you think about it, by Giftcoin being held in a form of escrow via the smart contracts, what that's going to mean is, firstly, as more people use the platform, that's going to be more demand purchasing Giftcoin. We also have a Roundup app where we will building a Roundup app where you can link it to your credit debit card bank account, and it starts rounding up your daily spending to the nearest pound or the nearest dollar or whatever. A little bit like Acorn, which is a Roundup app that invests the spare change. In this instance, the spare change will be used to purchase amounts of Giftcoin. So for the user, that's a really good way of accumulating some Giftcoin, then you can automatically donate it whatever. But what it also does is it starts to take small amounts of Giftcoin, which then become over time en masse very large amounts of Giftcoin, out of supply temporarily. When you donate money towards a project and it's held in a smart contract and it's held in a form of escrow, again, that chokes the supply that's coming into the market. So with these various ways, these what we call heat sinks, are various ways of reducing supply with a growing demand for the platform with such a large market that we're addressing, we believe there is huge potential for Giftcoin, unlike other tokens which just have a purely speculative value, that just the usage within the network has real potential to drive the value of the token.
And is it worth talking about some of the other token economic things we'll be doing?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay.
So one of the other things which I think is important here is that we have, in some ways, a unique challenge with Giftcoin, because if you think about as people speculating or investing in Giftcoin, they want to see the token go up. one of the challenges for charities is they want to have the reliability in terms of a consistency in price. You imagine the news story that, you know, the Red Cross raises $10 million for a disaster relief campaign in Giftcoin, and then the market, something happens in the market and the price goes down 20%, and suddenly there's $2 million that have been lost in value. So we will be giving charities the option to have a stable coin or a kind of fiat token, which will maintain the integrity of the smart contracts, but it won't have the volatility. So at the point that they raise money, if they choose to do that, then they will be able to have that confidence in terms of the value of the funds. But for those of you which have kind of the ability to get deep into the kind of token economics here, what you then will recognize is that's going to put the supply back in the market. So working with some of the top token economists, what we've then been looking at is how do we still start to reduce the supply over time? So our fee for using this milestone payments, let's say that's 2 or 3%, we will take an amount of that and take those tokens out of supply each time a transaction happens. So as projects are funded using milestone payments, small amounts of Giftcoin, but small amounts on volume becomes large amounts, get taken out of supply of the market. That reduces the supply, the demand goes up, the value of the token goes up. So we've done a lot of forecasting looking 3, 5, 10 years out, and where without any speculation, just looking at the network activity, given the volume of charities fundraising through the platform, what that's going to do to the price of the token. And I think it probably the thing that's going to give you the most confidence is for us as founders, our kind of the key incentive for us commercially, beyond our wish to fundamentally make the world better, is we have an allocation of tokens. Those tokens are vested over 6 years. So we can't sell anything for the first year, then 20% a year for 5 years. So if you don't just believe we're fundamentally people that want to make the world better, which I would argue is a key part of it, if you just want to look at it from the commercial point of view, we are heavily incentivized to ensure the value of Giftcoin is rising significantly over time.
And I would add one thing to that,
Yeah.
is that the tokens that we're removing from the market, what we're trying to do is come up with an interesting way of actually putting them back into the market, but a way that they cannot be exchanged for monetary value, but maybe some other kind of value. So we're talking about things like rewards, experiences that you can't get anywhere else, just things that you can't necessarily buy, but will be valuable to the community, maybe extra voting rights, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, it's about using those tokens to add value and make the token more attractive, but restricting that from the monetary supply of the market.
Yeah. Another question that's been emailed in, and feel free to post questions on our Telegram channel as well, but people have been emailing some questions through the website. So someone said, why there's lots of ICOs, I'm kind of paraphrasing the question, but lots of ICOs and lots of projects out there. Why should someone back Giftcoin versus other projects? I've certainly got some thoughts on that.
Well, I do, yeah. I mean, I think obviously you have to like the idea, and we believe in the idea, and we think the idea has a powerful potential to change the world. It really does. But it's a double bottom line. It's also the potential to become a very profitable business. It's a $2.5 trillion market, and you only have to take a small percentage of that market to be extremely profitable. So it's what they call a double bottom line. I think we've covered, a lot of people have questions about why will the token go up in value. I think we've covered that partly. We're making more announcements about that in due course, exactly how those token economics will work. And I think ultimately, if you sort of buy into the vision and buy into the idea about Giftcoin, then you look at the project itself. And I would say that we have a very, very strong team. We've all built and sold businesses. I've had an exit. Alex has had an exit. John's had 2 exits. We understand what it takes to build strong consumer businesses. I've been building consumer products for 20 years, and actually that bit is the bit that we're least worried about. Executing on that bit, we feel that we're very capable, more than capable of doing that. And then it's just look in the other lane. They always say in startup land you need 4 things. You need a good idea, a good team, a good execution, and I've forgotten the last one.
And something else.
Something else, yeah. Good product. That's it. A good product. And I think we cover all 4 of those bases. With
Yeah,
Giftcoin.
it's funny what you say. People. Sometimes we get questions when we're having investor meetings, or questions around how do you feel about getting market adoption, and And I think people think we're a bit crazy when we say that's the bit we're least concerned about, because that's the bit we've done before. I mean, the charity that I founded is, it's a niche within a niche, but it has service users in 40 countries around the world. I know you've won. Did you mention the awards that you'd won in your? I don't know if you did or not.
I didn't know. I mean, I've won a bunch of different awards for products. So, 2 interactive BAFTAs, which is quite a big deal in the UK. I've won. We were Startup 100 2 years running. Times Top 10 Disruptors to Watch. And I've won a bunch of stuff for the consumer products that I've built.
So actually building the platform, bringing it to market is in a sense the easier, not that it's going to be necessarily easy, but the easier bit for us. It's the running a token sale for the first time, which has obviously had its own set of challenges that go with it. And I think the other thing that I would just add to what Tim was saying is that there's also one of the things that's talked a lot about in the crypto community is how do we change perception of cryptocurrency to support mass adoption? And ultimately, that's going to be down to people having real-world applications of using crypto. And given that the vast majority of people, at least in the Western world, give money to charity, if they can do that in a way which is fundamentally better, it's a better experience, they can see impact, they can feel more connected to what they're supporting, we're not going to go out and market that to the kind of general masses as cryptocurrency and blockchain. We're going to talk about transparency, trust, seeing the impacts of the money that you're giving. If people can get used to using platforms like this and then realize they're already then using cryptocurrency, that's a very powerful way to support mass adoption.
Alice, there's a few questions coming through on Telegram.
Yeah.
Do you want to take some of those? So, Hit Crypto is asking, how are partnerships discussion going? Any names, organizations you can share?
Yeah. Charity checkouts. We'll bring 2,000 charities now, but 5,000 charities around the time that we launch. I think that's a pretty big deal for a crypto blockchain startup, which is still working on bringing product to market, to have a major player like that. We have had a number of conversations with, people like the Charities Aid Foundation, with very positive conversations there. I mean, these are discussions at this point, not partnerships, but very strong interest. We've met with one of probably the largest charity payment provider in the world, and we are now actively looking at what collaboration is going to look like there. So there is significant relationships that are building.
I think it's worth saying that also they're not partnerships, but Red Cross, UNICEF, Amnesty International they're not partnering with us at this stage, but what they have done is agreed to co-publicize with us.
Well, I think, the thing that if you look at the International Business Times article, which is in our press section, which is written by John Dushinsky, there's original quotes from Red Cross and UNICEF in there about what they see as the potential of blockchain, and particularly a potential platform like ours. Yeah. So to have those original quotes provided, I think, again, that definitely shows potential.
There's a question here from Hipcrypto as well. Why Ether network and not another such as Neo or Ripple with faster transaction speed? During a natural disaster fund, will Ether network slow down? So I can probably answer that one. So we chose the Ethereum network. By the way, I should say that we're not, if at some point in the future we need to jump network, we can do that. Our engineering allows us to do that. The reason that we decided to launch with an ERC20 token is really just because of the momentum that is behind the Ethereum network right now, and the kind of the amount of the community that it's encompassing, that we felt it was the biggest project and made sense for us in that way. As I've said, one of the goals of our ICO is to raise money, but one of the goals is to engage the community. And we felt that by launching on Ethereum, that was probably the best way to do it. Having said that, you may have missed and to your question about the network weather, you may have missed the explanation I gave, the technical explanation I gave earlier on, but that is why we have a two-chain solution, a side chain and the public chain, the Ethereum chain. Precisely for that reason, that we don't want to be subject to network weather, and we realize that network weather can vary a lot, even not just where there's a natural disaster, but even last week the Ethereum network became very slow. So we've developed a solution that we believe will allow us to get the best of both worlds. So speed within our own permission blockchain, but at the same time publishing very small amounts of data, essentially the hash of each of our blocks, to the Ethereum network. And as I said, there's more details of that in the white paper. Also very happy to answer those questions, but perhaps offline, about our specific technical solution.
There's a question that's been sent in via the website. How do you feel about the weather? I wasn't sure if it was you kind of answered the weather question, but probably network weather.
The weather outside is actually quite nice today.
Or I suppose the weather or the climate at the moment.
Yeah.
The crypto climate.
So maybe the crypto climate.
So, and I think probably the best way to answer that is, certainly the crypto market is in some ways a challenging place at the moment. The good news, it started to change. In the last 24 hours, I think we're going to see some progress. We plan to set the price of Giftcoin versus Ether in the smart contract in a way which we expect to be very favorable to people. We are very sensitive to it, and we will be looking as the ICO continues. If there are ways that we need to kind of rebalance, we will do. Ultimately, we want people to feel kind of incentivized and well positioned to support the project. Final question that I can see that's just been forwarded to me here now, and then let's come into a bit more. I want to talk about the documentary series that we've been working on. So, do you have product yet? So the answer to that question is product is in development. We have been specifically focusing on putting together the token sale. I think we've achieved I like to think a huge amount in the last 9-10 months. If you look at the global PR that we've had, I think that's a sign of the level of interest. You look at the collaboration like charity checkouts, I think again that shows the interest. The charities we already have on board for the platform, and the purpose of this ICO is to raise the money to bring version 1 of the platform to market. And as we said a little bit earlier, really it very much plays to our strengths. That side. Yeah. So we had a few questions that came in before the AMA that were specifically around the documentary series. Now, if you haven't watched any of that, I would highly recommend you go to the giftcoin.org website, and right down the bottom you'll see the first I think seven episodes, I think, and there's more episodes coming this week. What we'll do is we'll run the trailer now for those of you that haven't seen it. It's a good way of getting a bit of context, and then we'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. So here's the trailer to the Giftcoin documentary series.
We're trying to raise $10 million in 6 weeks to launch a cryptocurrency specifically targeted at charitable giving.
Blockchain has the potential to be as big a technology innovation as the internet.
For people that are doing this that are not paying any attention, what are the risks?
The risk is jail because it's a crime.
It's one of those moments when you do. You laugh or you cry.
There's not enough drama in this.
He reckons he can bring £100,000 to the pre-sale. No way! Yeah. Trying to raise money for the pre-sale, that's the bottom line. There's quite a lot of investors here and there's quite a lot of funds here. About this project, people love this project, so that's definitely been super interesting.
We've got a 10 grand bill that is overdue.
We look like amateurs if we change the dates.
We're going to look like tits if we don't do the ICO as well.
It's hard to explain sometimes what you go through when you're trying to do a project like this.
We got an email from Google.
Hopefully we'll get some really good insights into how we can optimize our campaign.
Our biggest investor has just pulled out a project.
It's a go big or go home project, but it's actually about doing something that can genuinely change the world.
You can make a donation using this new cryptocurrency, Bitcoin for not-for-profits, Bitcoin for charities.
This idea is a world-changing idea, and I want us to be the team to pull this off.
It's always slightly mortifying watching yourself on camera. Yeah, I mean, so the background behind the documentary, I think it's referenced actually. I can't remember which episode, one of the episodes. There's a friend of ours in London, a guy called Rory Sterling, who is a well-known London VC. He very nearly invested in a previous company of ours, and we going through the process of kind of the due diligence and stuff. We kind of became friends, and when Tim and I were kind of evolving the idea for Giftcoin, we ended up just kind of going, as we regularly do, to catch up with Rory and tell him what we were doing. And he was very supportive around the idea. And then one of the final things he said as we were leaving his office was, you guys should document this. It's a rare moment in history. I don't think he meant Giftcoin, a rare moment in history, just the kind of the blockchain revolution that's happening. And to capture one of the stories behind that, he felt was a great idea. But also, we're existing in a world, charitable giving, we're trying to disrupt and bring more transparency. But we ourselves are existing in a world of cryptocurrency and blockchain, which in of itself has some issues around transparency. So he felt, and we certainly felt through talking to him, that if we could honestly show our story behind the scenes, it would be a way of kind of how people feel more of a connection to us and what we're trying to achieve. It's certainly been an odd experience, hasn't it? I don't know if you want to say anything about what it's been like.
It has been a weird experience. I was a little bit nervous at the beginning. I think I said it because I felt like we were showing the audience our knickers, our underwear, and I wasn't sure if it would backfire. But actually, I think what's been interesting about the documentary is that we've had a lot of people contact us. I think the views have been good. They haven't been skyrocketed, but they've been good. But what's been interesting is the quality of the views has been excellent. So people have seen them and reached out to us, and very influential people often, or big people in crypto, have seen the documentary and have reached out to us and said, "I really love what you guys do because of the documentary." So I think that was a particularly interesting point. And it is fairly, it is filmed as it was. I mean, we're not trying to present an image. I mean, that's actually the way it was. Arguments, good times, bad times. It feels like it was a fairly accurate representation.
I mean, in a sense, it's the kind of the emotional roller coaster you go when you start any kind of new business or project. I think what's, Tim said it a bit earlier, I think for both of us, having both worked on some very ambitious and disruptive and challenging projects in the past, there's something about this project particularly, which is just partly the timescale, partly the complexity, partly the constant kind of moving around of the market. We don't promise a kind of polished kind of version of us, but you certainly get to, I think, know who we are and what we stand for, and some of our values in terms of how we make decisions and what we value to be important. So, just a reminder, we've put our Telegram channel on screen, so you can make sure that you're not joining any kind of spam channels or spoof channels. So feel free to join and ask questions. We've got a little bit longer we're going to go for. I think we'll talk a bit. There's been a few questions around the pre-sale. There's been some questions around the ICO. So I think we'll talk a bit more about that. So the token sale starts tomorrow. Starts at 9:30 New York time, let's say, because we have a few dramas of time zones that America I think has moved clocks and the UK hasn't, so we got slightly caught out there. But 1:30 UK time and 9:30 US time. US East Coast time. Yeah. And we have a fairly modest target for this ICO, which is a min cap of 2.5 and a max cap of 10. The way that the various discounts work, there's a 50% discount on the pre-sale, which closes today. Then there's a 10% bonus for early whitelisting for the public sale, 25% discount in the first 24 hours, and then some smaller discounts after that. So the way that it works, that the total amount raised will be less than 10 million because it's a fixed token supply. But maybe we should announce where we are on the pre-sale.
I think we can do that
at this point.
I should just forward that. I'd say one thing is that obviously that 10% bonus for whitelisting is for whitelisting early. So anybody that's thinking of whitelisting that hasn't done so yet, I would urge them to whitelist now, because as of 1:29 p.m. UK time tomorrow, that 10% bonus will not be there.
Yeah. So the pre-sale figure. In fact, it's funny. Someone's just put on the channel. Can you share how the pre-sale is going? So so on the pre-sale, we have raised $1.25 million. So we give or take a few thousand, depending upon what our email's been doing the time we've been online. We're still waiting on some bits to close, but it looks like it's pretty much $1.25 million. And part of what we're proud of that, our target was to get to $1 million in the pre-sale, so we're very happy to get to around 1.25. That means we're halfway to the soft cap before the public sale even opens. and that certainly feels like a big achievement. And the public sale opens tomorrow. It runs for a month. It's the minimum investment is a quarter of an ether. We will set, as Tim mentioned earlier, we will set the ether price late tonight or tomorrow morning. I think that's what you want to say in terms of the ICO.
I think that's probably it. I should probably actually just maybe clarify. There's an email that'll go out later to explain how to actually participate once you're whitelisted, but I can clarify now. So if you are whitelisted, you will have received an email basically explaining that you're whitelisted, and on that email will show you the ether address that we have whitelisted. So it's very important to realize that we only whitelist your address, we're not whitelisting your name. So we will whitelist the ether address that you have given us when you applied. And as you'll know, when you applied, you will have given us a piece of identification and a name and address and a date of birth, and you will have given us your ether wallet. Now, first thing to say is that it's very important, very, very important that this wallet is not an exchange wallet. So please do not use a wallet at Coinbase, at Kraken, at Bitstamp, any kind of exchange. It must be a proper wallet. We would recommend using My Ether wallet. There are other wallets you can use, but please do not send Ether from an exchange wallet. So once you've received that email, if you don't have that email and you think you should be whitelisted, please contact our support and we will do our best to help you. But you should have received this email, and the email will basically say, Mr. Smith, you've been whitelisted. Here is your ether address, and here is a link to verify your ether address. If you click on that link, you will get through to our verify page, which I believe is giftcoin.org/verify, and you'll be able to put your wallet address in there and check it's verified. If it's verified and you are successfully verified, you will then see the ether address to which to send your ether tomorrow at 2:30 UK time. And please do not respond to anybody that sends you an email saying this is the address for the public sale. The only address that you might get via email is a pre-sale address. The address for the public sale will only be distributed on our website at a specific website link. So tomorrow, basically you'll have to send your ether to the address that's on our website in the way I told you. So just to recap, go to the email you received. Another email will go out tonight, by the way, with these instructions repeated. But go to the email you received, click on that verify link, enter your wallet address, which will probably be pre-filled if you click off the email. Once your wallet is verified, you will see an ether address, and that's the address you send your ether. And then all you have to do is make a transfer for as many ether as you wanna contribute, and you will automatically receive your tokens. That's pretty much it.
Great. We've got one more clip to play, and if there'll be our last chance to ask any questions will be after this. So again, if people are sending through the website, you're welcome to do that. Any more questions you want to post in Telegram, you can see the Telegram channel up on screen. This clip, we were at Token Fest in San Francisco Thursday and Friday last week. Tim and I were speaking, and also John Dashinsky, who you've seen a few clips from today, because he couldn't be here in person, but we wanted to include him in the kind of presentations. So this is his keynote on the main stage. It was filmed on my phone, so apologies, it's not the highest quality, but it's plenty good quality to watch. It was a fairly rousing moment of the event. It was a kind of call to action of why people should support and get behind this project. And we thought it was a good kind of note to kind of share towards the end of this. So we're going to watch that clip now. Any other questions we'll take when we come back. And then, that'll be the end of the session. So here's that clip.
Yeah, you need lunch and coffee, don't you, people? All right, yes, a little bit, yes. It's a pleasure to be here, folks. Thank you very much. Thanks to all the incredible panelists I'm speaking here today. I have some good news for you, ladies and gents. You are here at the beginning of the biggest revolution in how we change the world since Victorian times. Guess what? You're in on ground zero. You could whoop a little bit more. You could. That's better. Thank you. Where are the whoopers? Oh, there we go, some whoopers in the corner. So why is this important? What does blockchain allow us to do? For the very, very first time, ladies and gents, Blockchain allows any one human being to make a supportive donation to any other human being on the planet, on the condition and the sole condition that they have access to a cell phone. That is a profound shift and revolution. That is what Giftcoin is all about. It's about putting philanthropy onto the blockchain, so that when you support change, you know where that money is going. Step one. Step two, so that we can empower end-to-end giving across the planet. So that instead of sitting there and watching CNN and watching those families in East Ghouta, in Syria, you could actually get on your cell phone and you could send $50 to the family, to the father or the mother of the family that is sitting there in East Ghouta in a basement, so that they could get out of that place when the next convoy comes through. Let's not underestimate the power of how this is going to change the way that we change the world. Because today, if you want to change the world, what do? You give money to an organization. And that organization then applies its knowledge to go out and put programs together. So you are a program funder. But who wants to fund programs? Shout if you want to fund programs. Shout it now if you want to solve problems. Right. You see where I'm going with this? Now, this is already happening. The Red Cross this year has put $350 million in cash into the hands of refugees in Jordan and in Lebanon. The World Food Programme has already committed that 50%, by 2020, 50% of all of the aid given, the World Food Programme given, is going to be given in cash. Now, currently they're using cash cards. What we're doing at Giftcoin is creating a space where that money can be given corruption-free, in total transparency, safe, secure, and almost cost-free. That's the vision here, ladies and gents. That's the vision. And if you start to take that vision a little bit further, what do you start to see? Well, imagine a group of people that come together as a community because they're passionate about a cause, and they say, you know what? We want to make a real difference. Now, the example I'm going to give you is real. We know from our partners that it is possible. They have said that it is possible to change policy and legislation in Uganda on LGBT rights. It's going to take 5 years. The reason it's not happening is because they don't have a community and they don't have a commitment and they don't have funding flows. That suddenly becomes possible. What else becomes possible? What else becomes possible? Well, what else becomes possible is that the role of NGOs, the role of non-profits organizations can shift. They can shift away from pretending that these non-profits are going to solve the problem. You give them the money and they're going to solve the problem. No. Non-profits get to step back and do the thing that they do best. And I say this, I've been in the social innovation space for 20 years. I've worked in 57 countries with 250 organizations. And I know that what non-profits do best is accumulate knowledge on how to change the world. They do not know how to scale solutions that achieve impact. We're right here today, ladies and gents, on the cusp of something remarkable. I want you to stand up right now if you want to leave a better world for your kids. I want to see you on your feet right now if you want to leave a better world for your kids. Let's have some lights in the room, people. Right, look around. If you want to leave a better world for your kids, ladies and gentlemen, then we have an opportunity that starts right here and right now. There's an ICO for Giftcoin. Starting on Tuesday. The pre-sale finishes on Monday. Don't sit down yet, you haven't finished your work yet. You haven't finished your work. But this is not just about Giftcoin, this is about all the people who are on the stage here, and it's about every single one of you. You have a responsibility. If you want to make that change happen, you have an opportunity and a responsibility, ladies and gents. This is our time to change the way that we change the world. Previous generations have delegated changing the world to non-profits. I say, we take responsibility for doing it ourselves. Who's with me? I want to hear you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Wow. Okay, now I can feel the room now, the energy. Okay, so last.
Okay, so welcome back. This is the last section of the Q&A. And there's another question that's on the Telegram channel. How about competition? Any threats? What's stopping Oxfam, for example, creating a similar coin system? So Maybe I'll just start off by saying we don't think that any one charity organisation themselves could build a platform like this. For a few reasons, partly the cost and the kind of developmental complexity. This kind of innovation very rarely comes from within any sector. It's normally people seeing a sector with fresh eyes and then building the right talent and the right team around it. So it just doesn't, and also as a donor, you're not going to use one platform for Oxfam, another one for Red Cross, another one for the local kind of cat charity down the road. You're going to want to use a kind of central platform that you use across the board. In terms of competition, there are others looking at the space. We would say that we have by far the most experienced team. We are all individually highly seasoned and experienced entrepreneurs. We also have, a quite extraordinary list of advisors, of people that are supporting and backing the project. Our collaboration with Charity Checkout gives us access to a vast number of charities. Also, others in the space, one that I can think of that did an ICO, and only other one to do an ICO did one recently, and they have a real problem around the value of their token having crashed on exchange because we feel that we've taken a lot more time to address the token economics for the reasons that we explained, but also this piece around making sure that there's a stable coin for charities is crucial because our sense is charities will be very concerned to work with them because their token is up and down in value. I think we feel that we're in a very strong position. Another part of the question was around any concerns around things like Brexit. Not hugely, just because we are, although we're based in London, we're a globally focused organisation. Yeah. So a kind of local issue like that is not a concern. Tim, there was a question that came in via the website around the roadmap for product.
Okay.
Do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So as Alex said, we are working on the first version of our product now, and we anticipate that going live in September. Obviously, that will be the version 1. We'll be iterating that, continually. Really, I don't believe a product's ever finished.
The first version of that platform. The primary focus there will be around the milestone payments.
So I can go into a bit in detail about that. So effectively, as Alex talked about, the vision of Giftcoin long term is that you'll be able to give money to anybody in the world, and that money will be able to be used at merchants to pay for goods and services. So we'll have a complete record through the blockchain of that expenditure. Clearly, we're not there at the moment. So the first thing we're doing is milestone payments, and the way that works is that a charity will come onto our platform and set up a project, and that project might have, let's say, 3 milestones. If we take the example of building a well in Africa, that might have 3 milestones. And each of those milestones will contain specific validation requirements, and those validation requirements are held in the smart contract of Giftcoin. So when a milestone is finished, the smart contract inside the coin will unlock the next milestone once the validation requirements for the current milestone are met.
Great. I think the last question, unless anything else comes in whilst I'm answering it, was a question around, which we kind of touched on earlier, but we can touch on briefly again, how have charities responded? Something I forgot to mention earlier is the number of emails that we've received over the last just few weeks, particularly as our PR has been crescendoing, of charities and not-for-profits reaching out to us and asking how they can get listed on the platform. So with access to what will be around 5,000 charities at the point of launch, the further collaborations and conversations that we've been having, which we expect will give us access to tens of thousands of charities at launch, we believe because we are solving a clearly identified issue in a sector, which doesn't have another way of being solved that you could do through something like blockchain, we believe that the adoption will be very rapid of something like this. And I think another point to say on that is that the consumer adoption of product always takes some time, and that's part of the reason, as Tim spoke to earlier, to run a token sale now, to build that early community support. But also we are actively working on strategy for a philanthropic advisory service for high net worth individuals. And that's again where John Dushinsky and his connections and relationships is important parts of that. Because having thousands of people donate $10 or having 1 or 2 people donate $1 or $10 million. Obviously, ultimately, we want both of those pieces. Ultimately, we want millions of people donating small amounts, but we also want people donating much larger amounts. And those, through those relationships, we believe a lot of the early volume through the platform will be these large volume donations. And so in terms of adoption, we're looking at both of those tracks at the same time, and we think ultimately both of those are going to be important. Anything else that's come through on
no.
questions? Okay.
Well, a few things, but I think we've
covered them.
Yeah, covered them.
Anything else that you want to say?
No, I just really want to thank people for watching, and just, if you haven't whitelisted, please do so. We are very heavily subscribed. We have had some of the busier times is difficult because we have to whitelist everyone on the Ethereum network, which can go up and down. So if you want to make sure you participate tomorrow, please do whitelist as early as possible. And also, there is still that 10% bonus available for whitelisting before the token sale starts.
Great, yeah. And ultimately, get behind us. If you believe in the value of giving to charity, but you believe that you would use a platform like this, support us. If you want to see cryptocurrency crossing over to the mainstream, and you want to see more people using crypto, this is a very powerful way to get them using it in the way they already use it. And fundamentally, we believe beyond the impact to change the world, we have one of the most robust projects in terms of market fit, market potential, market volume that are out there. And we just love to have your support. So thanks for watching. Thanks to the team here for supporting us. And get behind us.